What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and not the ideal outcome that I think we all wanted and expected from this Red Series, but the Red Sox still do take one out of these two games at home. After a dominating performance last night, 7-1 against the Reds, they split the series with the Reds. And the real story in this series was the pitching. For the first time, I think that we've been doing these recaps, both the starting rotation and the bullpen were exceptional in this series. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're not only going to talk about the starting pitching, but we're going to wrap up the entire Red series as a whole. And then we're going to talk about some pitching trends that I really liked in this series that I think could lead to long-term success for this Red Sox team in the future. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys are hitting the like button on these videos as well. It is the best way to help this channel out, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. The title of this video is about pitching. The intro was about pitching. It's only right that we start this recap off with the pitching, who in 2 games allowed 0 earned runs. I think that's the first time this year that they've gone 2 games with 0 earned runs. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. And a lot of it had to do with our starting pitching. In game 1, we saw Michael Wacha, who put on a master class in how to get guys out. He went 5 2/3 innings with 3 strikeouts and no earned runs. He was pitching a lot to contact that we're going to talk about a lot in this video, but he was doing a great job of putting balls in the zone in places where even if when the Reds made contact, it wasn't very hard. We got a lot of ground outs and a lot of pop flies, which is a great sign for Red Sox fans and for Red Sox personnel too as well, because Michael Wacha is coming off of a start in Chicago that did not go very well. He came back from the IL, and I think a lot of people, including myself, were concerned with the fact that maybe Michael Wacha lost a little bit of his mojo on the IL. That does not appear to be the case. As for the second game, Whitlock got the ball in game 2, and I still think he is more valuable as a reliever in 2022, but that's not really the point of this video because Garrett Whitlock had a great start as well. It wasn't a typical Garrett Whitlock start. In fact, I want you guys to comment down below which part of this stat line makes the least amount of sense to you, because Garrett Whitlock's stat line is 6 innings, no earned runs, 0 walks, 5 hits, and 0 strikeouts. Because to me, the most glaring part of that is the 0 strikeouts. We're used to Garrett Whitlock blowing it by guys and getting guys out on nifty pitches. That just didn't happen this game. Instead, he took the same approach Michael Wacha did a little bit. He put balls in the zone in places where even when the Reds made contact, it wasn't very hard or very loud. He got 3 or 4 double plays in this game, and it really worked out really well for Whitlock. So I like the idea of Whitlock possibly pitching to contact a little bit more. Let your defense try and make some plays. I know there were a couple of big errors in this series, but the big errors were also on balls that were really tough to play. So it's not like they were just typical routine ground balls. They were a little bit tougher than that. And like I said, I still think Whitlock should be a reliever in 2022, but definitely a great start out of him. And all in all, the starting pitching in general this year has been really solid. There have been some outliers, of course, throughout this season, but for the most part, the pitching on this team has been the most steady part, which is huge because this pitching staff is only going to get better as the year goes on. You're getting Sale back at some point, you're getting Paxton back at some point, and obviously we don't know how those guys are going to be, but Chris Sale is coming back from a much different injury than he did last year, so I'm expecting him to be closer to his real self when he comes back, and this could be huge later on in the year. I know this Red Sox team lives and dies by their offense, but the fact that this pitching staff has been so good has really been the backbone of this Red Sox team this season, and when the offense is doing really well, the starting pitching tends to do pretty well as well. As for the bullpen, this was pretty much the first series, in my opinion, that we've seen true dominance out of the Red Sox bullpen, which my guess is I probably won't be saying a ton this year, but it's really nice when it does happen. In the first game, we had Davis, Danish, and Diekman, the big Ds, and they came out and they shoved it very well. Danish had 3 strikeouts. Davis got out of a tricky situation. Diekman didn't let up a run, which is fantastic to see. And really the only run that was scored against those 3 was Danish, but that was off of a error, so it doesn't count as an earned run because the bullpen in this series as well did not let up a single earned run. In game 2, you had Houck and Schreiber, who again did really well. Also, another couple of guys who didn't entirely pitch for strikeouts. They pitched more for contact, and it worked out really well. I think there was only one strikeout between the two of them in 7th, 8th, and 9th combined. And the only part of this that really scares me is that if you add Strom into that group of guys, that's your entire bullpen essentially. Those are your reliable relievers. Diekman's kind of on the edge of that, but for the most part, those are your reliable guys. My biggest fear is that they're going to use these guys to win games, which will be great. It's going to tire them out a little bit. Being the only guys in a bullpen that can really get the job done isn't a very good thing. There still needs to be work done to this bullpen to add in at least 2 more guys that can be genuinely reliable. I'm not talking about closer if that's the route that they want to go with no closer, but they at least need 2 more reliable guys that can get outs. I don't know if that's from the minors or through trades. We were talking about that a lot on the live stream, but either way, it was great to see that the guys that we consider reliable be reliable in a series. All in all, the pitching in this series was definitely the highlight. That's why the video's named it. That's why the intro was about it. That's why we're talking about the pitching first. And the thing that I really loved, and the trend that I think should continue, at least against teams that maybe aren't the best in the league, is the pitch to contact strategy. And I don't know if this was on purpose or not, but we've seen a lot in the past, especially with the relief pitchers, that they're just trying to blow it by guys. They're not trying to be meticulous about where they put it in the zone. There was a lot of control issues early on in the year, and the fact that they have decided that they're going to start to pitch to contact, at least to bad teams, is a great idea. Going into an Oakland A's series, you gain confidence from this Red series, and you can kind of pitch to contact to these guys too, because they're not a prolific power hitting team. They've got some guys who can definitely punish you a little bit, but it's not going to be as bad as, say, if you try to pitch to contact to the Yankees or the Angels that, you know, we're going to see soon. So pitching this series, great. It was a confidence boost, and I really like the idea of pitching to contact to players. Let our defense do the work for you. But obviously, pitching was not the only part of this series, so let's talk about the offense as well. There was literally no offense in the first game of the series besides Rafael Devers and an error by Joey Votto to bring in a run. So realistically, this entire offense wrap-up of the series is just a recap of Game 2, where there was a lot of offense. And the first thing I want to start with is the first run of the game, which was a double by Rafael Devers, a single by JD Martinez, and then a single by Xander Bogaerts to drive Rafael Devers in. And I just love when that happens. I love when the big three drive each other in and move each other around on the bases. It's super fun to watch when those guys are doing that. Aside from that, you had a double from Alex Verdugo, who also had another hit, and he is starting to come around again too, which is fantastic. We really need Alex Verdugo in this lineup to do well, and it looks like he's at least starting to do that. He hit the ball really hard in both of his at-bats, so that is great news for the Red Sox. But the star of this series offensively goes to Jackie Bradley Jr., who had a single in the 4th that drove in a run and a triple in the 8th to drive in 3. And Jackie Bradley Jr., for as much as everyone clowned on his offense, for as much as everyone said that that trade was miserable, for as much as everyone said that he should be nowhere near this club right now, has been doing really well at the plate lately. Yes, it's been mostly at Fenway, but even in Chicago, he had a couple of big hits. And this is just, I love seeing this. Someone said it on the live stream last night, but it really is true. When Jackie Bradley Jr. does well, we feel like proud dads as Red Sox Nation because of how much he meant to us in 2018. So it's fantastic to see him do really well and end up being the star offensively of this series. The last guy I want to mention offensively is Trevor Story, who has cooled off a lot since his big week, but he did have a single and a double in this series. It's only 2 games, so hopefully he's starting to come back around again. If he's even halfway as good as he was that 1 week in May, he will be a very productive member of this Red Sox offense. All in all, yes, the first game sucked, and yes, there were opportunities for them to secure that win, but they didn't, and they end up coming out in Game 2 and absolutely dominating, and that's kind of exactly what I wanted in this series. I would have loved a sweep of the Reds in this series, but the fact that they are going into Oakland, who's kind of struggling a little bit as well, and by struggling I mean they're not very good, they have an opportunity to come out of there being 500, and they go and face an Angels team that's not exactly the same Angels team that we saw when they came in. They're cooling off awful lot. You've got the Mariners who have been struggling, and then you come back and you face the Oakland Athletics again. In my opinion, I am staying very cautiously optimistic about this team. They are nowhere out of contention yet, and they are about to play some guys who they can really do some damage again, and we've seen them do some damage against before. You guys should be cautiously optimistic too, as much as I am, and I really do think this Red Sox team has a very good chance to be a contender in this league this year, especially with the way that the pitching has been lately. But let me know your thoughts down below on this Red Sox team. Let me know what you think about them still being a contender in this league. Let me know what you think about this series, and let me know what you think about the Red Sox in general. Let me know all your thoughts down below. As always, if you've made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Like I said, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day, so don't be afraid to hit that button. Also, make sure you guys are hitting the like button on these videos as well. Again, like I said at the beginning, it is the best way to help out this channel and mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.